Yes. No shotguns. Toxic.
Welcome, everyone. Okay, thank you for joining us in the tenure and promotion room. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by asking our panelists if they would like to share a couple of tips and tricks of their own. We'll go with Kelsie first, just in alphabetical order, and then we'll jump over to Michelle. So go ahead, Kelsie, take it away.
Sure. I'm going to share screen a little bit. I try to put together some last minute tips. What are the dossiers due again for tenure promotion? Anybody know?
October 7th.
Okay, so in my world, it's not last minute. You're on track. But last minute tenure promotion tips. Okay, so formatting and organization. I use the UHCC suggested template, and I'll show you it right now. There's the link, and you make a copy of it. And here is the template. I'll put the link in the chat if you don't already have the link to the UHCC suggested template. For me, it made everything easy on how to format your e-dossier. You just make a copy and fill it out. You are probably at the stage where it's already formatted for the most part, but if you want to use a template, that could be an easy transition for you last minute. I modified the table of contents. One thing is, I think this executive summary chart is very useful for the reader. So I think that's a handy and useful element of this template. In this template, there is a table of contents, and I modified mine a bit. And I'll show you what my table of contents looked like. Just modified based upon what I did throughout the years, and also my interpretation of the UHCC faculty classification plan. Remember, this is the faculty classification plan. Of course, it's up to interpretation. So my interpretation led me to have this table of contents. And remember, when you are doing a tenure promotion document or a promotion document, you want to base everything on the rank that you're going for. So I, in my most recent dossier, was going for C4. So the whole organization of the document was based upon me already performing at the C4 level. Okay. So yes, I used the template. I modified the template a bit and revised the table of contents a bit based upon my narrative and my interpretation of the UHCC classification plan, organized based upon the rank you're going for. Throughout my narrative, the way I approached supporting materials is I use them when needed and when they're important to my narrative, or when they represented a big accomplishment for me or a big endeavor for me. So my narrative is not littered with supporting material, just supporting material when it added strength to my document. To make things easier for me, I hyperlinked it directly in, and I used websites whenever I could, so I didn't have to deal with making copies and putting the copies in the shared drive. So for example, this goes straight to a website on the internet. So for the most part, I try to use websites, but when I couldn't, I made files of the document, put the files in the shared drive, and then linked out to the files. Let me see, like for example, this would be a file in the shared drive. Okay, So I hyperlinked supporting materials throughout. I used a mix of files stored in the shared drive. You should all have a shared drive, and websites. I tried to err on the side of websites as much as possible, so I didn't have to deal with files in the shared drive. I would put some effort into organizing your shared drive. This is what mine looks like. I wouldn't spend a lot of time organizing it, but I would put some effort into organizing it because it's possible that your reviewer may stumble in directly into your shared drive. And if it, this is a peer review process, and if it appears to be disorganized, that may give the impression that you're not going for. So this is my supporting materials folder, and I organized it based upon the major categories of my narrative. And then it looks like that. So I don't think you need to go all out with naming conventions or spend a lot of time organizing, but just keep it neat and tidy and simple, I think. Okay, so yeah, use mixed files, put some effort into organizing, and I use supporting materials only when really necessary. So content, every division is different. I'm in social sciences, so I know my division appreciates clear, concise, and straightforward narratives. Regardless of your division, I think straightforward is very important, also clear, but depending on your division, concise may not be the standard, but for my division, concise is. Just remember, sometimes TPRC and DPC members do not spend too much time reading your document, even though you may spend a lot of time on your document. So straightforward, I think, is important in making sure you really get the main points across. Focus on highlights and the big things. Proofread yourself and find another proofreader to proofread for you. That's another reason why I appreciate the template, because it does have that straightforward executive summary of your accomplishments. Yeah, because sometimes readers don't spend too much time on your document, and you want to make sure your main points get across. And lastly, some bits of motivation. Let your work speak for yourself. In my opinion, DBC and TPRC, they want to see you succeed. In my opinion, they want to see you succeed. So I would go in there with a positive mindset. More motivation, you worked hard for years. That's my perspective. I already did the work, so this is just a formality and get it done. Submit it and then get back to your real work and don't stress about it. Okay, I'll stop sharing for now and then move on to the next presenter, and then I think we're going to do a Q&A.
Yeah, awesome. So while you're, I'm going to hand over to Michelle shortly here, but if you think of anything while they're going through, or if you want them to go back and show things on their screen again, just type it into the chat for now so we have a log of what we can do, but go right ahead, Michelle, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my screen here? Tips and tricks?
Yes.
Okie doke, awesome. Okay, little different in substance, but it really complements what Kelsie said. Okay, so fairy tales and lies, these are things that people told me. This is a fantastic opportunity to bask in all that you've done. No, this is a painful process. Okay, what an honor to be able to share all you've done. Again, this is a painful process. Okay, it'll be a doc that folks will spend hours soaking in because you've put in months and months of work. Again, no, it's a painful process. Okay, so that's the bottom line. I mean, you've got to go through it. So like Kelsie said, focus on the positive, push through, you are almost there. Okay, so to reiterate what Kelsie was saying here, really, I mean, you know, the people who will be on your committee, TPRCs are often on DPCs as well. There are people who are on multiple TPRCs. So they don't have a lot of time to spend on your document. So you have to make your argument as to why you deserve the tenure, promotion, or just promotion really quickly and tightly. charts are very, very helpful. So what I did was, knowing the expectations of my rank, I took that guiding document that Kelsie showed you, I printed it out and I highlighted it in color. I'm like that. So, blue for this, primary duties, I did pink in this. And then I went back to my narrative and I made sure that I hit on all of those marks. And when I did, then I crossed them out, because then I knew that I was making the argument that I needed to make in order to get that next step. Okay. Make the ultimate use of technology. I know we're getting close, but it really is helpful. If you take, maybe a couple of hours, go through your narrative and do the links for your headers, for your footers, any kind of paragraph formatting. If you can do that, you know how you can highlight it and then you can put input and you change it to header and header 1, header 2. If you do all of that, then your table of contents will automatically be created. And then if you need to, it will also, you can make it so that the table of contents then updates if you make any kind of changes. And if you want to know how to do this, you don't know how, email me and I will walk you through it. Okay, your next dossier, I hate to say this, but your next dossier really does start the day after your last one ends. It does. But if you do this, right, then I guarantee that first slide, things will be less painful the next time around. So this is what it looks like for me. For all my appendices, I create a spreadsheet. And every time I do something, I put it down. I take a few minutes. I create here what the service or whatever it is that I've done. The link here is not the website link. So like Kelsie, my website links are within my narrative. What's in the appendices is the evidence. So you know how you get that thank you letter after you participate in something? As soon as you get it, put it into your drive and then put that hyperlink in there. Then you don't have to dig around later. Yeah, I have the dates here, so I can do it easily. I can just chronologize the whole thing. Level of responsibility, so that I'm able to then, if I need to categorize that way, talk about my committee membership, my primary duties, whatever I've done, it's easily in there. And then I explain what it is I did, because I'm not going to remember in 3 years what it is that I did. So I have that all in here to make everything easy for me. And then I'll show you what this looks like, but each tab is for each requirement for the next step moving forward. So like Kels, I went up for C4. I'm looking forward to C5. And so for that, I already know what I need to do in order to get that promotion. And I've created tabs for myself and I'm filling them as I go through my day. Okay. So let me show you what this looks like. So this is the spreadsheet that I've created for my appendices. Okay, so introduction is here. This kind of just explains to me and explains to the reader what this is, because you can link this into your document when you explain what it is that you're doing here. Okay, then I have all of my service. So you can see here, my primary duties is the first link. So anything that I've done that pertain to primary duties are here. Then I have my peer evals, letters of support. They're all organized. So you see how easy it is once you create the template, then you just keep adding as your years go by. And then when it's time for you to write your narrative, you have your outline already made. It's on the spreadsheet. Any kind of certifications I've earned, my division service, so on and so forth. And then my thank you letters or peer evals or whatever are going to be here, and they're all hyperlinked already. So all I have to do is click on it, and then the document appears. Okay, so by being a little bit organized up front, it'll save you a lot of time when you get deeper into it, especially when you're hitting year 4 and you start thinking, oh my goodness, I have to organize all of this. But it's already organized because you've been keeping track from the beginning. Okay, that's it for me, Alyssa.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. So my turn. Now comes the panic, because you're like, oh, shoot, I didn't organize it as well as Michelle has just told us to. And so I promise I'm going to do it for next time. But now I have 2 weeks and I need to get this together. So that's where I jump in, because I like to go last, since they have shared the wonderfully nice organized tricks. And mine are, just let's not panic here, people. It's going to be okay. That's my mantra for you today. So I will admit, though, I am very much like Kelsie and Michelle, which is why we have similar, kind of organization to things. I do like to do things ahead of time, and I do like to get things organized. So I've gotten into the habit, even though I'm 947 years old. I'm actually cross-stitching as well currently. But the The paper version of my document is here, in that all of the things that I do on a daily basis are written in here, because if I don't check it off, it didn't happen. I don't know why. Since I was a kid, I've had my schedules and I've had to write it down. So at the end of each year, I sit down and type that all out, just like Michelle has, and put in all the evidence and do all that stuff. So it's not quite as nicely prepared originally, but this is what it looks like on my end. So I tried really hard to make this as user-friendly as possible when I uploaded everything. And if you look at the actual appendices and dossier and everything here, they are, like Michelle said in Kelsie's presentation in the chat, they are organized in order so that it's easier for people following along to make sure that they can click on each thing and see, you know, what's in Appendix A, and that's at the first part of the document and all of that. So it's nice to be organized. I cannot stress that enough. As a TPRC member, that is my #1 pet peeve, when you go in and you're like, I can't find this anywhere. I can't find anything. And just to comment on Igor's comment in the chat, in my narrative, that table that talks about, I was going for C4, so the table that talks about C4 primary duties and how I meet it is the first thing you see in the dossier itself. And so when you open it up, there's, you know, the appendices, all that stuff. But when you actually go in, because this looks kind of backwards, there is the full, I'll just show you the full one because it's easier than clicking all of these things. When you click on it, it's one of the first things that you see, because I wanted to make it right up front. You know, this is what I did, this is what it looks like, all of that. Reasons for promoting me is right up front. And ironically, in reading my comments from the TPRC and from the DPC, they basically just copied this table. Some of them even had the bullet points in there. So this is really helpful for them, because they can just say, oh yeah, look, she's done this, she's done this, she's done that. Here you go, just like stick them all in there. Do know that the TPRC and the DPC will have comments for you, so please address them from your previous, you know, contract renewals or previous promotion documents, because they want to see that you've actually listened to what they've had to say, and that their minutes will go with Michelle, because they definitely didn't spend hours and hours poring over these documents. But the minutes that they did pour over the documents were well worth it, and that you took their suggestions to heart. But note that, take it with a grain of salt, because one of the comments from my TPRC, and I promised Danielle I would mention this because I was ranting about it yesterday, was that I said, you know, oh, I did over 100 professional development activities, and they said, that's too much, stop it. You need to have less things, and you need to focus, you know, on just a few good professional development things. And I was like, no, I love professional development. That's why I'm here. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt when they have to comment something, but the useful comments, you know, make sure you pay attention to those. And the others, you can just say, no, I like, you know, I like hanging out with everyone. I'm a very lonely person, so professional development gets me out of my bubble. Here we are. So yes, in that long rant, the two things I want to take away is, #1, try and be organized about it so that it's easy for people to find things. Igor, I would recommend putting it in at the beginning. So I have my introduction, and then immediately following that, I have that document highlighting, you know, the criteria and how I meet it. And they absolutely do look at that and use that. So if you put it right front and center, they'll focus on that, and then they can just kind of click through and make sure, you know, that everything else is there. Right now, hopefully you've got most of the dossier written, or at least some of the dossier written. I recommend getting feedback on that as soon as possible if you haven't already, and make sure that that feedback is coming from someone who is not in your discipline. So they can be in your division, just maybe not, you know, I see a lot of chemistry, biology, oceanography, just make sure they're in a separate one, because your explanation from oceanographer to oceanographer, I'm gonna understand exactly what Dawn is trying to say. But Ichia, who, you know, is teaching anatomy and physiology, might not get the references and the, you know, language and all of that that oceanography uses. So share it with someone outside of your discipline, outside of the college even. I have offered my mother as a reviewer. She's actually reviewing a couple of them this semester. So try and get someone who's outside of this institution as much as possible, because they're a good representation of your TPRC. As you know, there's going to be people in the TPRC from the other colleges. So they're still in UH, but not necessarily at Leeward. There's only going to be one representative from Leeward. So make sure everything you've written is clear for them, understandable, and kind of highlights your points of, you know, these are the things I should be doing. This is what I have done, and I deserve this promotion. So the more time you put into that, making things clear, easy to read, and easy to follow, the better it'll be. And then last but not least, I'm a paranoid person and not the best with technology all of the time. So I always have someone log in before I'm going to submit it and just click on all of those links and make sure that they're working and make sure that they can access all of the information. So if you don't know, Kelsie was showing the platform. You can share your document with other people via the online submission platform. And so share it with someone so that they can log in and just click all the buttons and make sure that they work and that they are connected to the correct resource that you're trying to highlight. Again, there's nothing more infuriating as a reviewer if someone says, oh, I did all these great things and here's all my certificates and here's all that. I'm the TPRC member who clicks on everything. And so if it's not there, or if it's crashing the system, or it's going to a different website, or it's disorganized, like Kelsie pointed out, the more disorganized your document looks, the more or the less likely they're going to want to continue working on it and reading it. They're going to have this kind of bad outlook on it. So keep it organized, make sure everything works, and you should be fine. So now that we have thoroughly stressed you out and shown you everything, I'm going to stop sharing and we will open it up to questions. I liked my final statement, sorry, I'm going to cut myself off. My final statement is I liked Michelle's reference that this is actually a really painful experience. And to me, it feels like hazing. They want you to sit down and do all this work and type all these things and make all these links and do all this annoying stuff because, if you can do that, then yes, first we'll keep you forever. And secondly, we'll promote you and give you lots more money. Millions of dollars. We're still waiting on that. All right. Any questions from the audience? Bring it on, Igor. You feel free to unmute.
I have a question. I think a long time ago, I think it was at some workshop, and they say, watch out before you link to like YouTube links or anything like that. So if I have a Google site for my class that have my own video that's processed into YouTube video, is it okay to link to that Google site and they will see it? Or should I painfully download the videos and then move them in as a file, and then they can link it?
Yeah. I linked to a lot of external websites to avoid downloading and uploading to your drive. I think the concern was like, well, what if something happens to that website and it crashes? But if you're uploading to things that are relatively stable, I wouldn't worry about it. I don't know how you feel with that, Michelle.
Yeah, I feel like it's easier to link to, but
yeah, I try to link as much as possible to. That's what I did.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did the same as well. I mean, it depends if you're, how far advanced you are. I mean, if you have a website that's even a year old, then you might want to double check to make sure that the link still works. But, if you're putting it together, like, Alyssa said, the last thing you're going to do is go through and make sure that every link works. Yeah. So, yeah. Igor?
Actually, my question is also about the links. We switched, I think the last spring semester, we switched to anthology for our assessment of the courses, right? This new program, and I did a few assessments over there courses, but I'm not sure how to actually link these assessments to my DCL, because I don't have my personal page over there. So if I want to kind of prove that I do have these assessments, I can only provide the link to the website, but they have to search for those courses and to find it and check. So or maybe the way how to link to these assessments of these courses in anthology.
So you want to prove that you submitted your assessment data to Anthology? That's your question? Personally, I wouldn't worry about proving that. I would say I submitted my assessment data to Anthology, and I would provide probably my own analysis or chart of my assessment data. My personal approach is I don't have to prove every single thing I did unless it's big and huge. But I think for the tenure promotion, they want to see that you have a reflection and analysis of your effectiveness as a teacher. And learning outcomes is a way to do that. So I would have a discussion and analysis of my assessment data within my narrative. But I don't think you have to prove that you submitted your data to Anthology. I think you could just state it, but I don't know what you think, Alyssa and Michelle.
Yeah, I agree with Kelsie. I don't know that you necessarily have to link to it. If you are concerned, or if you don't want to create your own versions of tables, because we've got 2 weeks, so I recommend going in and you can take a screenshot of when you first log in. You can see the 4 or however many SLOs that you have, and then you see the little bars that show the red and the green, and how many people have actually succeeded in your course. If you take just a screenshot of that as part of your assessment and say, look, this is the snapshot from spring, whatever, 2022, this is how well the students did, and then you can, either make your own table or just discuss previously how well the students were doing. I think that should be sufficient, so that if you're really concerned with them seeing it on Anthology, that's the easiest way to do it, is just put that picture right in the document. It breaks up the words, number one. I like tables and I like pictures because it kind of gives you something to look at other than just like reading through as a TPRC member, and it helps you kind of keep track of where you are. But yeah, long story short, I would do screenshots if you're really concerned, or if you don't have your own tables of the data, just screenshot that and throw it in there.
I have a question. I have a question related to grants. How do you guys, if you write grants and you work with grants, how do you present that in your dossier? And the reason why I say this is because in my tenure dossier, I added that I have a grant and that I use that grant for X, Y, and Z. And the comment I had back was that I should make it really clear what the release time for my grant supports and what I'm doing under my teaching duties, but I don't receive release time. I get paid over the summer. So how do you go about doing this so it's like clear to people? And by the way, all my grants, all they're doing is supporting my teaching with supplies and tools and stuff like that. Thank you.
Yeah, so I work a lot with grants as well. The concern always is that somehow it's impeding upon your effectiveness in your primary duties, which is teaching. So just exactly what you said, Daniela, I would start with that I utilize the grant for this. It does not affect my primary duties because it occurs during the summer, and then go from there. And then really discuss that. I mean, because, that's awesome that I know how much you pull in. So talk about how that informs your teaching and how that affects your student success. And that makes a really great story.
Thank you.
And Michelle, I don't know if you want to show it again, but I know you had ways of organizing your time in there because you have 8 different positions right now you're working in. That's correct? 7, 8. If for anyone else out there who might be interested in how to divide that up in the document, if you wouldn't mind sharing again with us. And Kelsie too, if you have any pictures or suggestions for that.
I just have one job.
So my document is divided into 2 halves and 2 separate. So I made 2 separate primary duties because I had to show my effectiveness, right, in both. And then within the second primary duty is where I divide up all the things that I've done. And then you have to explain how your time is divided. So because I've moved from instruction to non-instructional faculty, so it gets kind of confusing. But the idea there is to show that everything that I do does add up to, a full-time status. Yeah, so that's the big thing. And then with the grants, I show that it supplements whatever that I've done so that it's external, but at the same time, I do it for a reason. So it's not just earning a grant so I can get more money, because that's sometimes the suspicion as well, especially when it comes from the, you have your outside reader in the TPRC. So you want to be sure that you say specifically, like for example, if I did a grant for technology in the classroom. So I said how much I spent, what I purchased, what the success rate was before we had this merchandise, and then what it was after. And then you have to draw causality, right? How I know that the purchases that I made affected my students' success. Well, they were laptops. So previous to this, students were not able to complete their assignments. So then I had data about that, you know, the completion rate. And then I compared it to after they had technology in their classrooms and how it went up to about, 90% or so. Data is a great story. Okay, but in the meantime, I'm going to go dig from my narrative because I don't have it right on hand. So I'll get back to you. So talk amongst yourselves.
Sorry to put you on the spot, Michelle. No, so the other thing too is just building off of what Michelle said, make sure that you always tie it back to the students. This was one of the comments that I had Frank review my first document, and he is very thorough, for those of you who knew Frank Stanton when he was here. And he kept saying, tie it to the students, tie it to the students. And some of the things I was like, well, I don't understand how this professional development opportunity that's, semi-related to my classes is going to directly tie to them, but there's always a way. And so if you can show that everything you're doing is deliberately to help our students succeed or our colleagues succeed, that's a great way to highlight. And like Michelle said, that makes a great story for your narrative, to show them that you've thought this through and it's not just like randomly grabbing at funds. Because I've sat on a couple of TPRCs where people have asked, oh, well, didn't they get paid for this? Isn't this outside of their work, or isn't this that? But when you can see the connection, or you can see that it's tied in, and the funding, whether it came from UH or not, may or may not be there, as long as you can show that what you're doing positively impacts, the college as a whole, then you should be good to go. Any other questions while Michelle's pulling this up for us?
I have a question. So let's say when I had to transition from face-to-face teaching to online, I made a ton of videos for my lectures. Should a snippet of one be fine, or do you think the TPRC might want to kind of have access to everything?
On the Kelsie side of things, I don't think they need everything. It depends on how you have it organized. So I created videos for 5 different courses prior to the pandemic, and some updated during the pandemic, and shared it with faculty across the UH system. So I just put a link to that drive that I sent to them so that they could use all the videos that they wanted. And then if someone really wanted to learn about biology, they could go in and click on them all. And the views did not change. So take that with a grain of salt. My TPRC did not go through and watch all my videos, which was somewhat heartbreaking. But not different from, all of my students. So what do you think, Kelsie?
Yeah, I agree. I would only include things that they're likely to click on and likely to go through. Maybe you have, a snippet of one or a really good video you want to share as an example. I would do that more as an example rather than share them all. I'm not, I use my supporting materials like seasoning, just to season your narrative.
Okay, found it. Okie dokie. So what I have, and mind you now, my home division is language arts, right, Anne? So we write and we write and we write. Okay, so generally we're talking 100 pages is pretty much the average for language arts. It's insane. Okay, anyway, that's why my whole painful process thing. So because I have my duties split up, I started with a navigation document. That's the first thing that readers will see. And then here it just pretty much tells them why I'm doing what I'm doing, and how this all fits together. So if you are one, and I know Daniela, definitely you are one, who has several primary duties, right? You have to explain at the beginning what you do and how this all adds up to student success. Okay, so that's my introduction. I explain exactly how my time is divided up, including the fallow year, yeah, and then what I've done, and then how it ties back to the students we serve. So that's my whole introduction. My philosophy covers everything I do. And this is my guiding principle throughout the entire, this is the thread that ties everything that I do together. So it's all about communication, collaboration, and ensuring that I know where my students are and that they are supported throughout their entire academic journey. So that ties together my instruction, and that ties together the second thing that I do, which is the Student Services Program Officer. So I know the bookends of what a student what happens to a student throughout their journey. Okay, so that's the thing that connects. And then let me pull this down. Language arts looks like this. There's an exact same one for student services, but I divide it up so that there's easy documents. So if I have readers who are primarily interested in my teaching, they can easily go to this document and understand everything that I've done. Conversely, if I have a reader from student services, then they can see exactly what I've done here. If you are doing something that is kind of esoteric or out of the norm, I would suggest you link your PD at the very top. And that's what I've done. So they understand exactly what my duties are, and then I don't leave anything to chance. So the first part of my narrative is really explaining why my primary duties have been split. And then the next one is how to read this. And it's the understanding that what I did in the first part complements the second part, but that I also expect to be evaluated based on the PD given. So I'm helping my reader understand how to evaluate me, and I'm guiding them, because really, like, if you served on TPRCs, you know you only have like an hour, right? Especially if you're doing multiple. So you want somebody to tell you exactly, what am I looking at? What am I evaluating? How am I evaluating? And how can I best really help this person pass along to the next level? Because, you know, nobody's really against you. They're really looking to see, you know, why do you deserve this? And that's the argument that you're making. That's about it.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thanks, Michelle. And so again, that's, you know, my final point again is just remember your audience. So you're going to have the DPC who knows you, who knows your work, who knows, you know, your division. And then the TPRC is from outside. So try and be as clear as possible, try and be as organized as possible. And so in these next 2 weeks, this is kind of the dust everything together and make it look like, you know, a coherent unit by the end, so that, like Michelle said, you can make your point that I do deserve this promotion for this reason. And definitely, Igor, throw that table at the top so that they can just pull right from there, because that's exactly what they did in my feedback documents.
Yeah, and there are other CC faculty.
Yeah.
So the TPRC are people in your field, but they come from a different campus. So they can evaluate your content more objectively, because it's not like, oh, it's done, right? Chances are they'll be reading it as a blind reader.
And it also includes 1 or 2 people on your campus, Leeward, but in a different division, so totally different division or unit. So you may have, even as an instructional faculty member, you might have someone from student services or, so yeah, so keep that in mind, that they're also going to be people in completely different lines of work reading your document.
So to answer your question, Don, they'll pull from other people in your division. So math and sciences, the, you know, similar ones from other divisions they may pull from, but definitely oceanography is where they'll go first. And Kelsie, just to confirm, because we were talking about this the other day, they don't pull, and Michelle, they don't pull anyone from like Manoa or West Oahu or Hilo?
I don't think so. I think, say they can't find oceanography faculty, they'll get some sort of adjacent or related discipline CC faculty for your TPRC.
Yeah, because the rules that they're evaluating against are UHCC ones. Yeah. So they're going to do that. And then remember, you guys have an exclusionary list too now. So if there are some run-ins, like, you know, ooh, Ichia and I just don't get along, then I can put her on my list and she will not be on my TPRC. Yeah.
And on that note, I don't think there's anyone it doesn't get along with.
No, yeah, no. That's why I picked on her, you know.
Where exactly is this list? I was asking Anne the other day. Is there an online form that we fill out for that?
Yeah, it's part of the forms. You're going to fill out some forms. So leave yourself a good amount of time to properly fill out those forms. And it's one of the questions on the forms you have to fill out.
Yeah, on that online website, there's a link. You can actually pull up the different faculty members. So make sure your exclusion list is only for people in the CCs, and make sure that it's, you know, people that might actually serve on your TPRC. I don't know anyone who may think you're limited to 10. I don't know how many people actually go over that, but if it's someone who is in your discipline on your campus, then they're not, don't exclude them because they're not going to be on your TPRC anyway. So put me in there, Ichia. Don't exclude me, okay?
Thank you.
Kelsie, do you still have that pulled up? Because there's a tab in the submission.
My thing.
Oh, I don't know if it'll show who you excluded. Maybe you don't want to pull it up.
I can. I didn't exclude anyone. I was like, come at me.
I think there are 3
Okay.
tabs on top on the
Yeah,
online
you try
thing,
to
and one of
find it.
those tabs is exclusion. And I don't think we have to do the paper form anymore, but
Yeah.
may want to check on that.
Where would it be?
On the main site. I didn't know if you had the site open. So not in the drive, but that.
Oh, it's not in the drive. No, I don't have the main
Yeah.
site open. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so the main site where you're uploading everything, you can share with colleagues.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If you want someone to click on all your tabs, share with them there. And also, the last tab, like
that's where it
Gabriella was
is.
saying, is the exclusion list. So you can go through that and exclude people. So if you're unsure, you know, let us know if you have any questions. It's really only people outside of your division on the Leeward campus, and anybody who's in your division and discipline specifically around the CC system who they'll pull from first for your TPRC.
And only the chancellor will see your exclusion list. So don't worry.
I have a quick question about the introduction part. I know when I was applying for tenure and promotion, it was kind of like some background information about my teaching and, you know, just about what I taught, you know, before coming to Leeward and, you know, what I teach, you know, during my time at Leeward. But I know for promotion, is the introduction just for that promotion period, or do I need to kind of fill in the gaps and let them know a little history of me and leave some of that information there? I wasn't sure.
I
I
left
didn't provide. Yeah, I didn't do that for my promotion. I didn't provide biographical information. I just kind of went into it. You were saying something similar, Alyssa?
Oh yeah, I did just a general introduction about me, just in case anyone on the TPRC doesn't know who I am, just to kind of frame it. And I did include, you know, background information of my history. So things, you know, that I used in my previous document and, you know, now any new stuff. But I just did it because I didn't know who would be on my TPRC. So.
Yeah. Okay, I would start, if I were you, this is just me, but I would start with, I am a nationally published writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is really a psychological game that you're playing.
Like, you don't know who I am.
Yeah, like, you know, but
Duh.
it sets them, it really sets you up. The opening paragraph is so important because it really introduces, I mean, you're introducing, you know, you're a writer. It introduces yourself to whoever's reading this document. So if there's something different about you, right, that's you know, really special and unique, I would start with that.
Thank you.
And let us know when you'll be signing autographs, Anne. So we can come.
Signed Anne book. Yeah, just say Google me. I'm Anne, Google me, period.
And bring it at the end, Kelsie. Igor had a question about pictures. So I personally enjoy putting pictures, sprinkling them in, like the seasoning Kelsie was mentioning of the links. I like them in the document just because when I'm reading the documents, I'm like, oh, cool, look at what they did. Oh, look at this, look at that. And, you know, it also helps that we take students into the field a lot. So I get a lot of beautiful Hawaii pictures. And so putting that in gives people a good feeling. And if nothing else, hopefully they're at least looking at the pictures in your document and saying, oh, look at all these cool things that, you know, Igor has done. Yay. You are very photogenic, so too bad it's happening. All right, any other questions? We've got about 9 minutes left.
Yeah, So over the summer, I was part of a team taught class at UH Manoa. So I was not the instructor of record, but I was a co-instructor. How do I present that?
Oh, that's an interesting one. It's not particularly primary duty, right?
I don't think so.
Maybe service. Yeah.
Okay.
System-wide service, right?
Okay. Thanks.
System or discipline service, since it's still within your
Right.
discipline.
Okay. Thanks.
But that, just to say, that is a common ding on dossiers. I get it all the time, a miscategorization of some endeavor, because like, what else are they gonna say? Like, you should have put this in this category or this in that category. It's really Manini, and I wouldn't stress too much about it, but that's a very common recommendation or comment, some miscategorization of some endeavor according to their perception. So I wouldn't stress too much about the categorization. It's an easy ding.
Yeah, it's not something they're necessarily going to be like, no, you can't have tenure because of this, you know. But if you do have things like student evaluations or other things that you want to share, you can include those, because I asked about summer courses, you know, that I've taught and whether to include them or not. And while it is outside of your primary duties and so you're compensated separately for them, you can still include some of those things because you did, you know, develop the course. And I know that that course in particular, Dawn, was a very intense course. So I'm sure you have some wonderful pictures you want to share from that too. Sometimes though, I don't know, I think the only time I've seen this as an issue is when people say things are service but get compensated for it. I've been in a couple of debates in the TPRC when they're like, well, that's not service because you got paid. And so, you know, when reading someone else's document, it can be a nitpicky thing, like Kelsie was saying, but I would put it in, you know, if it's a class, I would put it in with the other classes as far as like evaluations and all that. And then you can say in there, you know, this was developed in service through, you know, the SOAS program at UH Manoa, et cetera, all that good stuff. Go ahead, Igor.
Do we have sometimes like to discuss like the same kind of services like in different sections? Like say for instance, like I'm talking about the college like services, like and the committee like services, like so they kind of separated, like but at the same time like they related, right? So how to should I mention them like when I'm talking about the college like services like, or just like focus like on the committee like services? And if I don't mention them like for the college like services, like what I'm supposed to mention there.
You want to have a good spread. So that's why like a spreadsheet or a chart helps, because you can see how everything divides up. And if you're lacking in one area, then you have to, maybe that's where you want to put it. And then you make the argument as to why it qualifies in that section. The warning I would give everyone is to not double dip. Yeah. So if you participated in, I don't know, the Discovery Fair, let's say, right? You don't want that to appear everywhere, you know, or if it does appear, then you have to pull out individual elements and be very clear about that, right? I did this one part, you know, I purchased the items and so this falls under campus service. And then, you know, but that's like if you really have to stretch it, but that's definitely a red flag. So you want to be sure that you have as much as possible one thing in just one category, and then make the argument as to why it qualifies for that position.
All right, any other questions? Okay, well, thank you all for coming. We can, you know, if you want to pop over to the other room or if you want to go to the main room and chat with everyone, we can do that now. I will stop the recording.